calm down just a little bit. First of all, how many veterans we got here? Would you stand up, please? Veterans? Big applause. How many have actually been homeless before? Would you raise your hand? Or even if you're homeless now? Thank you. How many have slept in your car? Yeah, that's been necessary. So, again, I appreciate everybody coming here tonight. I want to say a huge thanks to the school district, Superintendent Gallagher and his staff, Dane and Terry Peters. Do I have that right?
Maybe Tina Peters. Right?
Tina, I'm sorry. Yes, but they have really worked hard. They have set all this up on very short notice, and it's just really a tribute to this community, and I think the reason that we're here. So we have, I'm one of your county commissioners, but I'm here more as a citizen, and there's nobody I don't know that doesn't want to help their neighbors. Doesn't matter what their income is, but they also don't want to compromise, or they're concerned about their quality of life, their standard of living. And I often say and relate to people, federal government is not coming to rescue us. State government is not coming to rescue us. And so we need to really be involved and help one another and try and solve our own problems. I'm really encouraged by just the number that we have here tonight. Sometimes when my wife and I get in, let's just say, discussions, she reminds me, the T principle, okay, that's please control our thoughts, our emotions, and our attitudes. If you don't mind, I might repeat that, and I really need to practice this, especially as a county commissioner. Our thoughts, our emotions, and our attitudes. There's some great brain power in this room. Certainly there's some diverging views, and we understand that. I've got a lot of friends here. I was able to meet some new people. I want to offer to you that I'm the opposite of an expert on housing and the homeless issue, and I've had some very wise people since I became commissioner remind me that those are two very separate issues. I was born in Gold Beach, lived here almost my entire life, and so I've seen obviously a lot of changes. Many of you have seen those changes. And so as we recognize the problems, we need to pull together, and sometimes that takes something as simple as just forgiving. You know, there's some controversy in our communities, in our state, in our country, and I'd like to help Curry County be one of the rare places that actually pulls people together and offers and listens and just forgives. When you talk about what's going on in Curry County, I'm going to change glasses here. If anybody wants a copy of this is a list of the 24, as I see, biggest problems in Curry County. This is only my opinion, so for what it's worth, it shows you where we are. I started working on this about a year ago. The homeless was actually at the 24, somewhat down towards the bottom of the list. Not intentionally. Again, just my opinion, but just in 1 year, I've raised that to where I think it is closer to the top. So here we go, and I'm just going to give you the topics of this 24. I'm not going to take the time to spend a lot of additional information or discussion on it, but we have a very high suicide rate here, maybe one of the highest, arguably. Number 2, homeless and transient issues. Sudden oak death. If you don't know what that is, it's been here for 17 years, and I'd like to talk about that. I've spent a lot of time trying to educate myself on that. Curry County unemployment. It's the highest of the 36 counties in the state of Oregon. We're at 5.3 right now, and the national or U.S. average is 3.8. Checo fire destruction. Public land. Checo fire destruction, private land. South Curry Emergency Medical Facility. It's a huge issue for this community. The opioid crisis. Future log supply for our mills here. Potential shortages. Curry Emergency Community Network. We have 5 towers in the back part of our county, and they are all but antiquated. Curry Road infrastructure, the Checkle Bar fire damage, sport commercial fishing. Our highway's looking better, but Highway 101 is always going to be an issue. Tourism, short and long-term damage. Smoke management, rising crime, invasive species. Boy, I could talk about that for the Port of Brookings Harbor, what they've been through, the sinkhole, the tsunami. Our fish hatchery on the Rogue River is, they're not producing fish. Public land surveyor restorations due to the fire. The marijuana issues, rehabilitation and reforestation. Lobster Creek fire destruction and the Klondike. Not a conclusive list, but I want you to know what I believe is that the only way we're going to solve these problems is we come together. That's you're here tonight, which I really appreciate. There's an old term, civil discourse. Talking to a friend earlier today that reminded me, it's hard to bring people together. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of concern. But I'm just going to ask everybody to go back to that T principle. A human interest story for you. Somebody called me just before I came here and said that they knew of a family sick with 6 kids that backed their trailer into a garage shop, or more like a shop, of a grandfather. And so those 6 kids from 6 up to 16 are living in this new neighborhood. My friend called, said the kids are out riding bikes. It's wonderful to hear children's voices, and the noises too. And so I'm going to conclude with that. That's something you wouldn't have seen though even 10 years ago, perhaps even 5 years ago, certainly not 30 years ago. So here we are. We have a very distinguished panel here, and I got to send out a huge thank you to them as well. I'm going to start with Mary Rowe, is a strong housing advocate, and then Chris is here. Thank you, Chris, for David Whitmer, who could not be here. Connie Hunter has been working on veterans issues for a long time here in Curry County, as well as understands a lot of these problems that I just identified collectively. Very happy to introduce Mayor Pieper. I've gotten to know him the last few years. We're just proud of the job he's doing. Beth Hidalgo, Oregon Coast Community Action, and the Curry Homeless Coalition. Bill Buchanan just sat down, and he is a planning expert, and as I get to know him, I rely on his counsel a lot. Brookings City Manager Janelle Howard. I want to just offer the work that the City of Brookings has done. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to all the people that have contributed to that, and they've made some really terrific progress. And Mr. Lauren Paulson is a Vietnam veteran, proud to say, and he's been working on housing issues for a long time. So we're going to give each one of our panel members here a maximum of 4 minutes, and then what do we decide to do after that? Beth, we're going to go 2 minutes if you want to come up. Oh, better to go to than you, huh? But we're going to, then if the public would like to speak after that, my friend Lauren will just hold the microphone for you, and he'll know kind of, I've done a great job on keeping the distance of the mic, right? But he'll hold the mic for you, come up, you'll have 2 minutes, and then at the very end, try not to be too formal here, but at the very end we're going to have 20-second questions where anybody wants to ask any member of the panel, or maybe you just want to make, your statement should be in that 2-minute time frame though, okay?
Thank you, Commissioner Boyce, to all of you good people who came here tonight because you care about your community, and to Summer Madison for doing the volunteer work to make this event possible.
I got to applaud her.
We are all here tonight because we care about our community and want to work to make it safe and healthy. We each have different experiences and perspectives, and thus can all learn from listening to each other so that we can come up with solutions. I have an MSW, have advocated for homeless people for about 10 years. Oh, thank you. I do street outreach, provide supplies, and help homeless people to develop plans that will help them to achieve their goals. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision which allows homeless people to sleep on public land when shelters are full, is a big change for our community. Finally, homeless people can sleep, which can help them to function better and to get out of their situation. All of us need and deserve sleep. The downside, of course, is that tents are popping up where tourists like to go and children and vulnerable adults need to go. Rather than give people tents, I give people heavy-duty 8x10 tarps. The county decided on November 7th to utilize a 1996 county order in compliance with state statutes that basically allows sleeping from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and does not allow pitch tents continuously. I believe that the county...
We tried to remind me.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's on.
All right, see where I was. Okay, the county decided on, yours was. The county decided on November 7th to utilize a 1996 county order in compliance with state statutes that basically allows sleeping from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and does not allow pitch tents continuously. I believe that the County Board of Commissioners may give more specific guidelines after a period of evaluation, and citizen input would be valuable in that process. I know that the community has some problems with some homeless people recently, and I also know that some well-behaved homeless people have been scared and deprived of sleep by honking horns and dogs sent in their direction. Continuous horn honking is not in compliance with the new law as determined by the Ninth Circuit Court. I applaud citizens who are willing to help keep our neighborhoods safe and encourage you to join neighborhood watches and work with law enforcement. As long as we all don't break any laws, call each other names, and try not to stereotype each other, we can work things out. I am currently working on a few projects. Many people cannot get into subsidized housing due to poor credit. An organization in Salem and Lane County called the Neighborhood Economic Development Corporation, or NEDCO, gives a course in financial fundamentals to prospective tenants in conjunction with another nonprofit that gives a course in how to be a good tenant. Graduates have a 90% success rate. I asked NEDCO to outreach to Curry, and to my incredible amazement, they agreed. I have also been working on the possibility of South County having a crisis intervention mobile outreach unit staffed by EMTs and crisis workers, like the CAHOOTS program in Lane County. CAHOOTS stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. The CAHOOTS program in Lane County has offered to train us. Grant money is drying up in 2019 though, so funding is the challenge. And some of the things that a mobile outreach crisis assistance unit can help with are suicide intervention, crisis counseling on scene, family mediation, homeless outreach services, substance abuse stabilization, notifications of death, and domestic violence victim counseling. And I believe that's the end of my time, but if anybody wants to know more about that, you can ask me and I can tell you all about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Hi, my name is Chris Eiley, and I'm the RN care manager, nurse manager for the Brookings VA Clinic, and I'm here because Dave Whitmer was unexpectedly detained because of the Joint Commission surveys, which are unannounced, and they happen every 3 years. And they happened to show up yesterday unannounced, so he couldn't be here. I'm not a subject matter expert on the homeless and how the VA is dealing with it, but I did reach out to our social work team and the HUD-BASH team for some statistics. And the information they provided me is saying that veterans comprise about 1/4 of the homeless population. And this is what they wrote, is that the VA cannot end homelessness alone. In order to address homelessness, the community must come together to ensure all homeless people have access to needed resources. This is happening by development of balance of state continuum of care. The issues of homelessness are very complicated and often stem from a wider variety of issues, including financial, mental, and medical concerns, substance use, and psychosocial issues. The only way to truly end homelessness is to ensure that people have access to all the services they need to overcome the foundational issues surrounding the homeless episode. The VA works collaboratively with a variety of community partners to ensure that veterans have the services they need. They work with the Housing Authority, the CAP agencies such as ORCA, food banks, SSVF, community mental health, churches, shelters, and local and state agencies. The current state right now is Roseburg VA has made significant strides in creating resources for homeless veterans. There are 4 dedicated homeless program staff members on the coast, and they currently have 77 BASH vouchers. In Coos and Curry County, they have 59 BASH vouchers, 100% in use, 54 leased, and 5 in hand seeking housing. Del Norte has 18 vouchers, 96% in use, 11 leased, 5 in hand seeking housing. Roseburg VA is working in partnership with Housing and Community Services across Oregon to support a continuum of care. The COC works collaboratively to quickly identify homeless people, get them connected to appropriate service to address underlying issues of homelessness, and assess resources to help with housing needs. The barriers to housing that our veterans are experiencing, and I'm sure all the homeless, is there's a lack of affordable housing options, especially in Brookings. The average 1-bedroom rental rates, the summer rates are approximately $1,200 a month, and the winter rates are approximately $900 to $1,000 per month, and the Housing Authority payment standard is $700 per month. With a high percentage of veterans on fixed incomes, they're not able to afford the cost of living. And I did verify that even though the cost here in Brookings is higher, the VA, they aren't able to raise that. That's out of their hand. One of the things that she didn't mention, but as a nurse with the VA, I'm familiar with the aid and attendance program, and I'm not sure everybody knows about that, but the aid and attendance program does not provide care for veterans, but what it does is it provides a stipend that could be anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800 a month to help pay for care that they might need. Sometimes they've used that to go in addition to Social Security, your veterans, your compensation and pension, and then you add the aid and attendance, and sometimes you're able to get into a better housing situation. There is criteria that you have to qualify for that, but that's something that you can talk to your primary care provider, and we can get you to a medical social worker that will help you with that. The good news I can also report is that they are in the process of recruiting a medical social worker for the Brookings VA clinic, and the medical social workers are caseworkers that sit down and work on planning for veterans in all situations, but they're especially helpful to work with our HUD-VASH for people that are at risk for homelessness or already homeless.
That sounded like a subject expert to me, just saying. Anyway, I'm Connie Hunter, and I was asked to be here today primarily because of my work with the Brookings Harbor Community Helpers Emergency Food Bank. But I also sit as the chair for Curry County Mental Health Advisory Board and on the Housing Commission, and for the Veterans Administration's Executive Mental Health Council and their community ambassador. So I'm blessed to be among a lot of people that genuinely care about our community. But the subject matter for me is food insecurity. There are 2 definitions that I'd like people to kind of grasp tonight, and one is food insecurity and the other one is hunger. The definition of food insecurity is when consistent access to adequate food is limited by a lack of money and other resources at times. 14.6% of Oregon's households are experiencing food insecurity, and those are 2017 information, so it's updated information. Hunger, very low food security. The definition is food intake is reduced and normally eating patterns are disrupted. 6.2% of Oregon households experience hunger. Again, 2017 numbers. 1 in 7 Oregonians are food insecure. 1 in 5 kids are food insecure in Oregon. Oregon ranks the 12th hungriest state in the U.S., but 44th in food insecurity. And I want to say something about mental health and food insecurity. Currently, Oregon funds less for mental health than every other state in the union, even less than Puerto Rico at 51. We're working on that. The Oregon Health Authority has prioritized behavioral health as the #1 priority, and one of the things I had the opportunity this summer to do was see the Oregon Health Authority and the coordinated care organizations come up with new policies that talk about the social determinants of health. And those are things that include food security, housing, and so forth. All those things that keep us healthy, that are about our environment too. I guess the most important 2 points that maybe 3 points that I need to make is 53% of kids in Oregon are eligible for free or free and reduced price school meals. Rural communities tend to have higher rates of both food insecurity at about 17.6% and hunger at 7.3%. Food security and hunger are considered a condition of homelessness. Now, our work at the food bank has been growing, and my knowledge of the food bank came at about 2010. So if you got the information that I handed out, the food bank has seen a steady increase in people using our services, but something that happened along the way was ShopSmart closed. They used to give 4,000 pounds of food to the food bank. When Ray's closed, 2,000 or 2,500, pardon me, 20,000 or 20, I'm getting it wrong, but they substantially reduced the local food donations. And that actually happened the day before Thanksgiving one year, where we actually ran out of food. And I just reached out to the former mayor and I said, can you meet us at the food bank the day before Thanksgiving? And he did. And from that point on, we've had a struggle putting food on our shelves. Thank you.
Number 1, I'm a veteran. And number 2, I've been homeless. The serious kind. There was a speakerphone in downtown Portland, where I'm from, and it said, you have to go across the street tomorrow from 9 to 5, Housing Authority of Portland. I went there the next day, and they said, we won't have vouchers or anything we can do to help homeless people for a year. You're out of luck for a year. So that's my experience starting out my curve as a homeless person. Guess what? I wound up in Brookings as a homeless person. And I won't answer this question, but what sort of help do you think I got? I'm going to wind up with just 2 questions. One is, have any of you ever heard of a pamphlet called Homeless in Oregon, Know Your Rights? You see all these tents and lease cars and all that paraphernalia, and I wonder how many have just looked at the basic rights that both have that are unchanged by the Ninth Circuit decision. So I'll wind up with this. A couple days ago, I was outside the grocery discount store where a lot of the homeless people are looking for rides back and forth, and I stopped at some friendly people, 20-somethings, and here's how they narrowed it down into something very simple. All they wanted was a shower and a bulletin board to get information. They were non-threatening. They were your kids, my kids, Oregon's kids, nice folks, and worthy of help. Thank you very much.
City of Brookings, I told Court that I would come here to answer questions related to the city. The city's working with other organizations. I'm trying to facilitate, working with other governments, ODOT, state parks, nonprofits such as local churches, Curry Community Action, for community health, community action, Career Health District, All Care, trying to put veterans, VA, but there's a lot of organizations that need to be able to facilitate working together, and they work together well, but a lot of us don't know the other resources available with each other. And so we started putting together a group to try to work on that, to look at solutions. Long-term, there's not a quick short-term fix. And the council's looking at addressing some ordinances that might help facilitate looking at some of those long-term solutions. So I'll let the rest of the experts talk.
I'm Bill Buchanan. I've sort of had a dual life, being a developer, builder, logger here since 1990. And then I do quite a bit of work nationally and internationally. Teach through Notre Dame in South Bend and at Rome. Just 2 weeks ago, I was named one of the 12 most influential thinkers on urban design in the last 30 years. And all my stuff was about places like Brookings and the way that we have been messed over by regulations written by people from elsewhere, and how they don't understand our economy, and how this has led to homelessness and housing crises and so forth. But there's a better introduction I can make, and that is one of the panel participants that was announced is not up on the panel, which is a shame. But Shannon Souza promised to come, or didn't promise to come, was asked to come. And I know. And Shannon texted a little bit ago saying that she just finished a PUC meeting and had burned rubber for 2.5 hours to get here, but she was going to try, and we're very lucky to have Shannon here now. And just as a developer, this isn't a politician dropping in on us. This, in my opinion, is one of the most competent people in engineering and housing in the state and certainly on the coast, and we're lucky to have her. You can come up here if you would like. Oh, no, I'm not. I didn't even give a statement. I just... Okay. I did it. Okay. We have 3 real problems here. A sudden emergence of some homeless people that seem particularly aggressive, which is a problem. But, and it is true from the urban planning standpoint, it's been known since 1961, that people who mess up your neighborhood do destroy the value, that parks need to be preserved. And these are true concerns. It will hurt the town. Yet on the other hand, it wasn't very many years ago that there were pages of foreclosure ads, every paper, and people who worked hard, were friends and neighbors, were losing their businesses, were losing their houses, and were out on the streets. And that's not that far away. And I know people in this town whose children have come across a hard patch and are homeless in other towns. Saying, oh, we should send them right back to where they came from. Well, they're the same children coming this way in a lot of the way. I think if we're going to have a successful and civilized place here, we need to make it work for everyone. That, in a way, it's a test of how we succeed as a society. If you think of what kind of town you would like to live in, would it be a town where everyone is safe? If you fall on hard times, you're going to be picked up? Or is it one where the neighbors are fighting against each other and scaring each other and patrolling, taking pictures of each other? I don't think so. And that will determine who will move here. Is this a great place? is this a place that's so messed up we can't even trust our law enforcement? Because law enforcement was formed to end little neighborhood groups that fought with each other. You know, we give them uniforms, train them, they're supposed to take care of this. Thank you.
Working for parents to reunify with kids that are in the foster care system. Our house is full. We opened the doors about mid-September, and we have 4 families in the household right now that are working towards reunification with their children, or they've gotten their children back and they will be living independently within a 30 to 60 day window. So that's a broad overview of what Orca does. I brought some statistics. In January of 2018, this year, we implemented what's called a Coordinated Entry Assessment Program. It's a HUD mandated program, and it is a deep dive into people who are literally homeless. So we meet one-on-one with individuals, and we meet with families, and we go through a series of 30 or 40 questions. We are addressing, some of the questions address social determinants of health. So where do they sleep at night? How often do they eat? How many times have they been incarcerated? How many times have they gone to the ER via ambulance? Or how many times have they stayed overnight in the hospital? And so I have some statistics to share with you. Since we implemented the program, between Cruz and Curry County, we have assessed 311. We've conducted 311 assessments. Of the majority, they each get a score. So whether it's a family or an individual, you're scored by your assessment outcomes. We can help people that land in the middle somewhere. We can work with rapid rehousing and our transitional housing programs to get folks into housing. The folks that score on the lower end, maybe they need some one-off and done help. Maybe they just need that first, last, and deposit to get over a threshold. And so those go into what we call a diversion category. I would like to share that out of the 311 assessments that have been conducted, 26% of those assessments score in the high need permanent supportive housing category. And those typically are your chronic homeless individuals that have co-occurring mental health and substance abuse issues. And these folks have the highest needs, and Orca does not have programs designed to serve that population, to be very clear. Those are folks that may go through Columbia Care or some of the other programs that provide permanent supportive housing. And in Curry County, the individual data, 49% of Curry County homeless folks identified as individuals, 51% of Curry County homeless households assessed are families. And that's the saddest thing. I'll tell you guys, within the first 2 weeks of school, I got a frantic phone call from a person that I love so much for the work that she does here in Brookings Harbor School District, Michelle Pruden, and she was just beside herself. There were 3 families already identified that were living in vehicles, students that are attending school here in this district. And it's heartbreaking to hear those numbers reported that early in the season. So the coordinated assessment program is new, and hopefully we're going to get some really rich data out of these assessments as we move forward, and really be able to shape our priorities and focus on our priorities and metrics moving forward so that we can work with these folks and find some solutions. Thank you for coming.
Clean up? Okay. Jake Piefer, the mayor of Brookings, and along with our city manager, the city of Brookings is really, I think, here as a guest. Probably because it's rude to have a meeting here and not invite the mayor. But an interesting thing, I'm looking out and see a lot of people that I've never seen at a city council meeting or some other public forum. So I'm hoping that by the end of the night, especially those of you that don't know me and I don't know you, that I've heard something from you guys. So just take your 2-minute statement or ask your 20-second question to give Janelle and I an idea of things that we can bring back to the city council. So Commissioner Boyce mentioned, having a large table with differing points of view. So I'd offer mine as the mayor of Brookings, and just the mayor of Brookings, just my personal view. I'm not a homeless advocate. I would like the city of Brookings to be able to support and positively influence those organizations that can help the homeless population here. But as the mayor, I'm concerned about Brookings citizens and the health, safety, and welfare of us and our citizens. So, and protecting our assets like the park, not campground, but a park, and just making this a livable place that no matter what the street is or what time of day it is, you're perfectly comfortable walking down it and not have to worry about I usually don't let people applause at my meetings, but
Enjoy it, I don't get any of it.
so I've heard a lot of horror stories. I have personal ones, run-ins with them, with the vagrants. One's for my wife. My wife's an early morning jogger, so I'm aware of it. But again, those of you that I've never even met before, I hope to hear from you. And of course, if there's a question about the current, how the city of Brookings is currently handling something, I could share, I can answer questions and hopefully be able to interpret council consensus and the feelings on the city council towards these issues. So with that, thanks for inviting me, Commissioner.
Yes, and I would like to recognize some people, and I'm going to encourage them to come up and speak at maybe the first, and there's several here. I'm going to just start on the right here. Ms. Susie, you already got an introduction. We're going to come back to you. Thank you very much for the drive down here. I know you've spent some time down here. Mr. Barron, would you stand up and just hear the Public Works, right? Yes. Jay Trost, I'm gonna ask you to stand up. Former Curry County Parks Director and Juvenile Director, now working for the City of Brookings. Thank you for coming. Boyd Allen for the pilot. He's not here just as a reporter. He's here because he has, I believe, a very concerned and serious interest in this issue. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes. Would you stand up?
Just reporting.
Okay. Thanks again. Two gentlemen in the back. Anthony Bowdy, the Veteran Service Officer. Thank you for being here. Another guy next to him, David Hubbard with Oregon Coast Community Action, also Veterans Housing. Thank you. Candidate for Brookings Mayor, ran a heck of a campaign. Teresa Lawson, would you please stand up? If there's anybody, if the panel knows anybody else out there that I overlooked, oh, here we go, thank you. Cameron McVeigh, I did. Where are you? Stand up, my friend. He's with All Care Health. Thank you.